Regular meeting number 3 will now come to order. Please stand for the playing of the national anthem. And I believe we have Reverend Alex Abokwa-Clody. Reverend, if you would come forward to the podium, and thank you for being here tonight. Would you lead us in prayer?
Let us pray. Merciful, loving God, you are indeed the giver of all blessings. And we thank you this day for your many blessings. This evening, our elected leaders sit to discuss the city's business. We ask that you bless them abundantly as they seek your wisdom, guidance, courage, and strength. Be with them in their deliberations and help them make wise decisions for the good of all those who have entrusted their hope and confidence in them. Gracious God, help them lead with integrity, that their decisions may reflect that which is right and also is good for the people. Help our elected officials make decisions that are for the good of all. Dear Lord, grant we, the citizens of Columbus, the heart of humility to always seek your will in all that we do and say, in the spirit of peace. All glory to you, loving God, now and always. Amen. Thank you.
Clerk, call the roll.
Hardin, Klein, Mills, Page, Paley, Tyson, President Ginther.
Can I get a motion to dispense with the reading of the journal? Is there a second? Clerk, call the roll.
Hardin, Klein, Mills, Page, Paley, Tyson, President Ginther.
This week's communications received by the City Clerk's office are listed on the agenda and will be published in the City Bulletin. Are there any other communications to be read into the record?
Not at this time.
Do have one ordinance to introduce this evening in Rules and Reference Committee. Ordinance 0316-2015. I would like to ask for consideration and passage this evening. I move for passage. Is there a second? Clerk, call the roll.
Hardin, Klein, Mills, Page, Paley, Tyson, President Ginther.
We will now have the City Clerk read the committee assignments into the record.
Finance Committee, Councilmember Priscilla R. Tyson, Chairperson. Committee members Mills, Paley, President Ginther. Health and Human Services Committee, Councilmember Priscilla R. Tyson, Chairperson. Committee members Mills, Paley, President Ginther. Workforce Development Committee, Councilmember Priscilla R. Tyson, Chairperson. Committee members Mills, Hardin, President Ginther. Public Service and Transportation Committee, Councilmember Shannon G. Harden, Chairperson. Committee members Tyson, Paley, President Ginther. Small and Minority Business Development Committee, Councilmember Shannon G. Harden, Chairperson. Committee members Mills, Page, and President Ginther. Public Safety Committee, Councilmember Zach M. Klein, Chairperson. Committee members Mills, Page, President Ginther. Technology Committee, Councilmember Zach M. Klein, Chairperson. Committee members Harden, Paley, President Ginther. Public Utilities Committee, Councilmember Zach M. Klein, Chairperson. Committee members Paley, Harden, President Ginther. Development Committee, Councilmember Michelle M. Mills, Chairperson. Committee members Klein, Tyson, President Ginther. Environment Committee, Councilmember Michelle M. Mills, Chairperson. Committee members Klein, Harden, President Ginther. Recreation and Parks Committee, Councilmember Jiza N. Page, Chairperson. Committee members Tyson, Klein, President Ginther. Education Committee, Councilmember Jiza N. Page, Chairperson. Committee members Mills, Tyson, President Ginther. Administration Committee, Councilmember Eileen Y. Paley, Chairperson. Committee members Harden, Page, President Ginther. Judiciary and Court Administration Committee, Councilmember Eileen Y. Paley, Chairperson. Committee members Klein, Page, President Ginther. Veterans Affairs Committee, Councilmember Eileen Y. Paley, Chairperson. Committee members Klein, Page, President Ginther. Rules and Reference Committee, Council President Andrew J. Ginther, Chairperson. Committee members Klein, Mills, and Harden. Zoning Committee, Council President Andrew J. Ginther, Chairperson. Committee members Klein, Harden, Mills, Page, Paley, and Tyson.
Thank you, Clerk Blevins. Any announcements or resolutions from council members this evening? Councilmember Harden? Councilmember Klein? President Pro Tem Mills? Councilmember Page? Councilmember Paley?
Thank you, President Ginther. I do have a resolution tonight. I would ask Joyce Johnson and her guests to come forward to the podium. And tonight we are offering a resolution to honor and recognize the 30th anniversary of CCI Engineering Services with President Johnson and her guests. First, I move for passage of the resolution.
Harden, Klein, Mills, Page, Paley, Tyson, President Ginther.
The city has passed a resolution to recognize and congratulate CCI Engineering Services on their 30th year of business. It was originally founded as CAD Concepts and has grown into a provider of professional engineering and technology services to the city of Columbus and the metropolitan area for over 30 years. They have been a successful City of Columbus female business enterprise for over 20 years. And CCI Engineering Services has supplied the City of Columbus with high-quality engineering services in public services, public utilities, public schools, and aviation for design, construction, planning, and technology standards and development. CCI Engineering Services has their corporate headquarters in the City of Columbus and has played a prominent role in establishing and growing the Engineer Summer Internship Program for disadvantaged and minority high school students as part of the STEM Industry Council, as well as the State STEM Board. And over the past 30 years, CCI Engineering Services has contributed to the growth of the City of Columbus with their work on the Southerly and Jackson Pike wastewater treatment plant expansion and improvements to Hap Crimean water treatment plant, improvements to Columbus International Airport runway, construction, the Columbus traffic signal system improvements, the 7071 interchange redesign, as well as private industry development projects such as the Convention Center, Hilton Hotel, the Hollywood Casino, and the Riverside Methodist Hospital Neuroscience Building. Be it resolved by the Council of the City of Columbus that this council hereby recognizes and congratulates CCI Engineering Services on the occasion of their 30th anniversary. Joyce Johnson, the podium is yours.
Thank you, Councilmember Paley. I would like to thank you for inviting me in to speak. President Ginther, well, we already spoke, and I would like to thank Michelle Mills, Councilmember Michelle Mills, Klein, Harden, and Page, as well as Tyson. Thank you. 30 years, I'm not really that old. I would like to work the next 30 years for the City of Columbus and the surrounding communities. I'm honored to be able to provide a service that's necessary and that helps grow the next generation. I have partners here with me that I would like to say thank you to. First of all, my right arm, Barbara Odie, she actually chairs the internship committees. And then I brought a couple of my customers. You guys might already know these people. Katie Zinder, she was here for her 100th. She's HNTB. And Wee Chung is with Burgess and Nyepel. And Tom Jedlinski is with CDM Smith. They're all my partners, and they partner with us because we're small, we're female-owned, and we do a good job. So I would like to take that into the next century. And I don't know, that's about all I can say. Thank you.
Councilmember Tyson.
Thank you, Chairwoman Paley, for having this resolution come to council this evening. It's always great to be able to see diverse businesses grow in our city, and really appreciate having a women-owned business that is doing the great work that Councilman Paley mentioned in this resolution. So again, congratulations, first of all, to you, to your partner, as well as to the other companies that are here, because for a small business, you definitely have to have those relationships with those other businesses. And so I just want to say thank you to the businesses that are working with President Johnson, allowing her business to grow, doing great work in our community, and allowing jobs for our residents. So thank you so very, very much for the work that you do each and every day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Mills.
Thank you, Councilmember Paley. I just want to say thank you to you and your team for all you do in terms of developing young people, and particularly girls in the fields of STEM. So thank you for being a leader and a model for them. I appreciate you.
I just want to point out that Ms. Johnson has been one of our forerunners for our engineer for the day and for the program that we have with all the engineering companies that come out and teach our young people to hopefully bring in some more minority people into engineering in the city of Columbus. And thank you for all your contributions to education for our children, as well as engineering for our city. There are no other comments? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's all I have, Council President Ginther.
Thank you, Councilmember Paley. Councilmember Tyson?
Yes, I have Resolution 0022X-2015, and I'm going to ask Marilyn Pritchard, Camita Dover, and Ed Cohen, as well as all of the mentors and mentees to walk towards the podium, please. This resolution is to recognize the importance of mentoring and to celebrate January as National Mentoring Month. Whereas relationships with caring mentors offer youth valuable support to guide them toward making positive and healthy life choices. Whereas the mentoring programs that schools and youth organizations offer are effective at increasing student attendance and academic performance. Whereas mentored youth are less likely to skip school, start using drugs and alcohol, or engage in violence, and are more likely to attend college. And whereas these young people exhibit improved self-esteem, have better relationships with family members and peers, and feel a greater connectedness to our community and their schools. Whereas partnerships between businesses, schools, and other youth service organizations and mentoring programs are an effective way for business to support youth within our communities. Whereas the collaborative mentoring programs with the endorsement of their communities are able to serve more youth. Whereas in the last year, the Mentoring Center of Central Ohio have trained more than 1,680 mentors and mentees in person and more than 500 online, as well as provide enrichment activities for a myriad of youth in our communities. Whereas the Mentoring Center of Central Ohio, along with other public and private organizations, are committed to increase the number of quality mentoring matches. And whereas January has been designated as the National Mentoring Month, a time dedicated for focusing national attention on the need for mentors and to ensure brighter futures for young people, now therefore be it resolved by the Council of the City of Columbus that this council does hereby recognize and celebrate January as a National Mentoring Month in the city of Columbus. I move for passage.
Hardin, Klein, Mills, Page, Paley, Tyson, President Ginther.
Thank you. Ms. Stover, the podium is yours.
Well, thank you, Councilmember Tyson. And we are all here representing January as National Mentoring Month. The entire month has been devoted to just advocating for mentoring. And just last week, we had a big celebration down at the State House where we honored mentors who give of their time and talents to mentoring a youth, and also the mentees who benefit from that mentoring.
President Ginther, council members, I'm Ed Cohn, President and CEO of Big Brothers Big Sisters. We mentor about 7,000 kids a year through our mentoring programs directly, and with the Mentoring Center provide critical background checks and volunteer mentoring and technical support to 35 other mentoring organizations to lift the quality of mentoring so every youth in our city that receives mentoring gets the highest quality mentoring possible. So it's a real honor to receive the acknowledgement. Mentoring works. It's an evidence-based, proven intervention, and it's great to get acknowledgement of the work that we do. So we thank you.
Likewise, part of the excitement that we feel is that we've been doing the honoring of National Mentoring Month since 2002, and each year our 35 partners of the Mentoring Center are working with about 6,000 of the most vulnerable kids in Columbus. I know that all of you are people who care deeply about that very big challenge that we have. So we are delighted to have recognition for all these wonderful people who are among the mentors and mentees that were honored the other evening. And I think, Councilperson Tyson, that you had thought they could say their names, which we would love to have that acknowledgement for them.
Yes, and then we have a mentor who's going to say a few words, and as well as a mentee who wants to say a few words.
My name is Kojo Kanda, representing Kappa Alpha Psi and the Kappa League.
My name is John Brent. I represent Expanding Visions Foundation.
My name is Taekwon Mitchell. I represent EVF, Expanding Foundations. My name is Myron Johnson, part of Kappa League. And today I would like to thank Ms. Tyson for this opportunity and for this award. It shows that young people will get noticed for doing positive things in the community, and being able to be mentored is a wonderful thing. Wisdom is the key ingredient to a young person's success. Thank you.
I'm Bianca Daniels, and I represent Community Development for All People.
I am Kennedy Stokes, and I represent Community Development for All People.
Hi, I'm Jasmine from Centero. I'm Sierra. I'm also from Centero. I'm the mentor that's going to be speaking. Just a couple short words to say. Jasmine and I have been matched for almost 3 years now, and it's been amazing. I've seen the changes in her. When I first met her, she was very shy, very quiet. She comes from a Mexican family, and she used to say things like, "I hate being Mexican, I hate speaking Spanish." And so for me, that was really hard to deal with and hard to bear. So over the years, I've been working on her with her self-confidence, her self-esteem. And I actually recently found out that she's been mentoring little kindergartners at her school and reading to them. So, but not only have I seen a change in her, but this girl has changed my life in a way that I can't even explain to you. So this program definitely benefits every person involved, and I really, really appreciate you guys recognizing us for this tonight. Thank you.
Again, thank you so much, and again to the mentors, thank you for taking the time away. I know from your families and other activities you could be doing to support our young people. They are our future, and I truly appreciate what the Mentoring Center has done to be able to prepare you to mentor. And just want to say again, thank you so very, very much, mentors. And to the mentees, I want to say continue to listen to them, move forward, listen to your parents. I know some parents are in the audience this evening, and so your parents are going to be your number number one friend, and then you're going to have your mentors who will always be there for you too. So listen to them, continue to do well in school, and move forward with your lives. Congratulations.
Thank you, Councilmember Tyson. Any comments from our elected officials, City Auditor, City Attorney? Wanted to see if there are any requests by members of council for the removal of ordinance or resolution from the consent action portion of the agenda. Seeing none, may we now have a motion to waive reading of the titles of 30-day legislation by the city clerk? Is there a second? Clerk, call the roll.
Harden, Klein, Mills, Page, Paley, Tyson, President Ginther.
Thank you. Will the clerk now read in the record the ordinance numbers of 30-day legislation on tonight's agenda for first reading?
Public Service and Transportation Committee, ordinances 2222-2014, 144-2014. Public Utilities Committee, ordinances 2626, 2637, 2679, 2921, 2925, 2969, 3007, 3008, 3015, 3018, 3023, 3027, 3028, 3031, 3067, 3070-2014, and ordinances 15, 31, 32, 34, 38, 39, 74-2015. Development Committee, ordinances 208, 213, and 226-2015. Recreation and Parks Committee, ordinance 75-2015. Rules and Reference Committee, ordinance 114-2015. Zoning Committee, ordinance 0173, 0236, 0240, 0253, and 0254-2015.
The following ordinances appear on our agenda as consent actions. Will the clerk now read the ordinance numbers of each into the record?
Resolutions of expression 20X, 26X, 34X, 27X, 23X, and 24X-2015. Finance Committee, ordinances 3050-2014, Resolution 14X-2015, ordinances 126, 134-2015. Health and Human Services Committee, ordinances 67, 68, 69, 91, 92, 96, 127, 130-2015. Small and Minority Business Development Committee, ordinances 117, 118, and 119-2015. Public Service and Transportation Committee, ordinances 2916-2014, and ordinances 43, 54, 63, 78, and 81-2015. Public Safety Committee, Resolution 16X-2015, ordinances 52 and 86-2015. Public Utilities Committee, ordinances 3030-2014, and ordinances 26, 35, 84, 89-2015. Development Committee, ordinances 49, 57, 59, 66, 120, 121, 122, 123, 137, 139, 147, 164, and 222-2015. Recreation and Parks Committee, ordinances 6, 44, and 51-2015. Appointments from the Mayor's Office numbered A0009, 10, and 12-2015.
We do have one speaker on the consent agenda this evening. Mr. Nathaniel George Wilkins. Mr. Wilkins, welcome to Council Chambers. If you'd make your way to the podium. Share your name, address, any organizations you represent. You signed up to speak in support of 0057-2015.
Mr. Lieutenant George Wilkins, your chairman of solely vacant and abandonment property in North Linden area. I just want 1369 Manchester Avenue, whoever gets to allow, just want that person to hold a higher standards by taking care of this side yard. Thank you again for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Wilkins. Any questions or comments for Mr. Wilkins? Seeing none, if any other discussion or questions regarding the consent agenda? If not, may I have a motion for approval of these items designated as consent actions? Is there a second? Clerk, call the roll by voice.
Hardin. Klein. Mills.
Yes, with the exception of 0081-2015 and 0164-2015, on which I am abstaining.
Page.
Yes.
Paley. Tyson.
Yes, with the exception of 0091-2015, on which I am abstaining.
President Ginther.
Yes, consent agenda carries. We now proceed with second reading of 30-day table and emergency legislation. The first committee is the Finance Committee. Councilmember Tyson chairs that committee. Madam Chair, the floor is yours.
Thank you. The first ordinance in finance is 0132-2015. It is to authorize and direct the Finance and Management Director to issue purchase orders with Benchmark Biodiesel, Inc. for the provision of biodiesel and ultra-low sulfur diesel fuels, to authorize an expenditure of $3 million from the Fleet Management Operating Fund, and to declare an emergency. This ordinance was formally bidded. Formal competitive bids for bio and ultra-low sulfur diesel fuels were received by the purchasing office, and a universal term contract was established through the ordinance of 1948-2014 with Benchmark Biodiesel, Inc. And the Fleet Management Division spent $3.7 million for bulk bio and ultra-fuel diesels in 2014, and the expected expenditure in 2015 for bulk diesel deliveries is $3 million. This ordinance is contingent, of course, on the passage of a 2015 operating budget. The next ordinance I'm going to read also is also for fuel, and so this year we've budgeted $11 million for fuel, and the next two ordinances add up to $7.3 million worth of fuel. We don't know if we're going to have to spend the entire $11 million. It's just going to depend on the prices of fuel, if depending on the weather this winter. So there are a lot of factors that determine that. But right now we know that that our unleaded fuel is $1.24 less than it was last year. But again, we have $11 million for fuel. So with that, I move for passage.
Second.
Hardin, Klein, Mills, Page, Paley, Tyson, President Ginther.
Thank you. The next ordinance is 0133-2015. Is to authorize and direct the Finance and Management Director to establish purchase orders with various vendors for the provision of unleaded fuel and fuel credit card services, and to authorize expenditure of $4,300,000 from the Fleet Services Fund, and to declare an emergency. I move for passage.
Second.
Hardin, Klein, Mills, Page, Paley, Tyson, President Ginther.
Thank you. The next ordinance in finance is 0138-2015 to authorize the Finance and Management Director to establish various purchase orders for automotive parts, supplies, and services for the Fleet Management Division per the terms and conditions of various previously established universal term contracts, excuse me, and to authorize the expenditure of $2,105,000 from the Fleet Management Fund for same, and to authorize expenditure of $200,000 from the Fleet Management Fund for repair services or parts, and to waive the competitive bidding provisions of the Columbus City Codes for emergency repair services and parts for the same, and to declare an emergency. During 2015, the Fleet Management Division is budgeted to spend in excess of $4.3 million for parts and over $1.3 million for services to keep the city's fleet of approximately 6,000 vehicles in operation. Fleet Management processes over 40,000 work orders annually for all city vehicles and equipment, and requires purchase orders with over 400 vendors to help us meet that need. And oftentimes, there are times where, with all the best laid plans, that a vehicle repair becomes necessary, and we may not have a purchase order or contract in place with the appropriate vendor for the needed parts and services. And that's why we're asking for a waiver of competitive bidding, that we may have to go to someone outside of that to be able to get the supplies that we need to ensure that all of our vehicles are in the best operation for all of our employees. So that's why we're going to do that. And with that, these city-owned vehicles in operation include for police, fire, and the refuse collection vehicles. And again, this is also contingent on the passage of our 2015 operating budget, which we are hoping to pass on February the 9th. With that, I move for passage.
Hardin Klein Mills, Page Paley Tyson, President Ginther.
Thank you. The next ordinance is 0140-2015. It is to appropriate and authorize the city auditor to transfer $7,051,096 from the Special Income Tax Fund to the Franklin County Convention Facilities Authority Fund for the purpose of providing secondary funding in the event that the Franklin County Convention Facilities Authority cannot meet its debt obligations, and to appropriate and expend up to $7,040,237.50 within the Special Income Tax Fund for the reimbursement to the River South Authority, and to make lease payments and to declare an emergency. Mr. Dorian, if you want to make comments on this ordinance.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. This ordinance represents, as you note, two items, approximately the same. The first number of $7,051,096 represents 50% of the debt service due on bonds issued by the Franklin County Convention Facilities Authority for the construction and payment of the convention center. This does not relate in any way to the arena or to the hotel across the street from the convention center. Franklin County also appropriates a similar amount, and my suggestion is these funds will never be used. They have not been used for over 20 years now, but this appropriation is required to be in compliance with the lease and sublease that exists between the city and the Franklin County Convention Facilities Authority. The second item contained in the ordinance, $7,040,237.50, is in relation to the River South Authority. That amount will be spent, and that is basically an annual amount, and that manifests itself in the Lazarus Building. That is an annual debt service payment on the Lazarus Building, and I should say on a lease of land that is related to the construction of the Lazarus Building. That debt will be paid off. It will continue at this $7 million annual level through 2024, which time it will drop about in half in 2025 and will end at that time. So these are, again, annual appropriations, and I recommend the adoption of the ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you, Auditor Dorian. If there are no questions or comments, we move for passage.
Second.
Hardin Klein Mills, Page Paley Tyson, President Ginther.
Thank you. I'd now like to move to Health and Human Services. Thank you. The first ordinance is 0070-2015 to authorize and direct the Board of Health to enter into a contract with Mount Carmel Health Systems, Inc. to provide medical records extraction services, to authorize the expenditure of $41,000 from the city's special purpose fund, and to waive the provisions of competitive bidding and to declare an emergency. Ordinance number 1489-2014 was approved by this council on July 21st of 2014. It authorized the Department of Technology and Columbus Public Health to enter into an agreement with Next Gen Healthcare Information Systems for provisioning, hosting, and ongoing support of an electronic medical record system for Columbus Public Health. And so with that, this software will now enable patient registration, appointment scheduling, monitoring, and tracking of patients' test results, and the creation and processing of electronic medical records, and generation of reports to help manage the clinic operations. And the health department has 1.2 million documents that need to be extracted and put into this new system. And we're waiving competitive bidding because we're already using this system, and we need to continue to use this system as opposed to going with another company. And so with that, I move for passage.
Second.
Hardin Klein Mills.
Let me look. Wait a second. I move for passage by voice.
Hardin. Klein. Mills. Page.
Yes.
Paley. Tyson.
Yes.
President Ginther.
Thank you. The next ordinance is 0090-2015 to authorize the appropriation of $500,000 from the unappropriated balance of the General Government's Grants Fund to Columbus Public Health for the 2015 HOPA program and to declare an emergency. This money is for comprehensive strategies for meeting the housing needs of low-income persons with HIV and AIDS and their families. And it's for housing information services, resource identification, acquisition, rehabilitation, conversion, lease, and repair of those facilities. And so last year, this program, we supported 100 HIV-positive people in addition to rental assistance for 75 households. And with that, I move for passage.
Second.
Hardin. Klein. Mills. Page. Paley. Tyson. President Ginther.
Thank you. The next ordinance is 0093-2015. It's for public health programs to authorize expenditure of $45,000 from the Health Special Revenue Fund and Health Department's Grants Fund to pay the costs thereof, to waive the competitive bidding provisions of City Code and to declare an emergency. And this legislation is for LabCorp. LabCorp provides the testing of all of our medical specimens generated by various programs within Columbus Public Health. And the LabCorp also has the results can go to our proprietary software system, NextGen, that I just mentioned. And we are asking that this waive of competitive bidding because of NextGen and their relationship with LabCorp. So with that, I would move for passage.
Second.
Hardin. Klein. Mills. Page. Paley. Tyson. President Ginther.
Thank you. The next ordinance is 0095-2015. It's to authorize and direct the Board of Health to enter into a contract with Columbus Neighborhood Health Center, Inc. to provide primary health care and dental services to community-based health centers, to authorize the expenditure of $4,799,110 from the Health Special Revenue Fund and to waive the competitive bidding provisions of the Columbus City Code. Since 1994, we've had a relationship with Columbus Public Health, and that's why we're asking the waiver of competitive bidding. And also, just want to share that Columbus Neighborhood Health Centers last year served 40,000 patients, received care at their 10 locations, and they had 110,000 visits. This is an increase to close to 10,000 patients over 2013. And they also have been integrating behavioral health within their programs because we realize that a lot of the patients that they see need behavioral health along with their primary health care. And lastly, I want to just mention that the Columbus Neighborhood Health Centers, the expansion of Medicaid in Ohio and the Affordable Care Act has had a positive impact on our Columbus Neighborhood healthcare patients. More individuals are going onto those programs. However, this will be this is a big concern. There are a number of patients, a lot of pregnant women who are served that are uninsured. And at their locations, it can range from 40 to 70% of them don't have insurance. And so they're really trying to focus on those women. And lastly, we have a number of the patients, more than 58% of those patients are also in need of dental services. And so their work is important to us. They do quality work for Columbus Neighborhood Health Centers. They're a partner with Columbus Public Health. And so with that, I move for passage.
Hardin.
By voice.
Hardin. Klein. Mills. Paley. Page. Yes. Paley. Yes. Tyson.
Yes.
President Ginther.
And the last piece of legislation is Ordinance 0112-2015 to authorize and direct the Board of Health to accept a grant from the Franklin County Board of Commissioners in the amount of $1,830,000 $1,830,882 from the continued operation of the Ben Franklin Tuberculosis Clinic, and to authorize appropriation of $1,830,882 from the unappropriated balance of the Health Department's Grants Fund, and to declare an emergency. I move for passage.
Harding, Klein, Mills, Page, Paley, Tyson, President Ginther.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Councilmember Tyson. Our next committee is the Public Service and Transportation Committee. Councilmember Hardin chairs that committee. Mr. Chairman, the floor is yours.
Thank you, President Ginther. Tonight in Public Service and Transportation, we have Ordinance 3073-2014 to appropriate $4,055,000 from the unappropriated balance of the Municipal Motor Vehicle License Tax Fund for anticipated 2015 operating expenditures for the Department of Public Service, Division of Infrastructure Management and Traffic Management, and to declare an emergency. And these funds will be used for the purchase of items like salt for roadways, paint, gravel, concrete, street and sidewalk materials, traffic signs and signals, and electric supplies. If there are no questions, I move for passage.
Harding, Klein, Mills, Page, Paley, Tyson, President Ginther.
If it's all right, President Ginther, can I move to small and minority business? Thank you. Tonight, we have ordinance in Small Business and Small and Minority Business Development Committee. We have ordinance 0116-2015 to authorize the Director of Development to enter into a contract with the Capital Crossroads Special Improvement District of Columbus, Inc. for the implementation of services set forth in the district plan, and to direct the city auditors to appropriate and expend up to $1,900,000 from the assessment levied from the property owners, and to declare an emergency. If there are no questions, I move for passage.
Harding, Klein, Mills, Page, Paley, Tyson, President Ginther.
And that is all we have in Small and Minority Business Committee. Thank you, President Ginther.
Thank you, Councilmember Hardin. Our next committee is the Public Utilities Committee. Councilmember Klein chairs that committee. Mr. Chairman, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Council President. First, in Public Utilities is 2924-2014 to authorize the Director of Finance and Management to establish blanket purchase orders for the purchase of sewer treatment chemicals for the Department of Public Utilities, Division of Sewage and Drainage, to authorize the expenditure of $2,065,000 from the Sewage Operating Fund to establish an auditor certificate in the amount of $2,065,000 for the expenditures listed within this legislation, and declare an emergency. Any questions or comments about these chemicals? I move for passage.
Harding, Klein, Mills, Page, Paley, Tyson, President Ginther.
2943-2014 to authorize the Director of Finance and Management to establish blanket purchase orders for the purchase of water treatment chemicals for the Department of Utilities, Division of Water, to authorize the expenditure of $17.5 million from the Water Operating Fund, to establish an auditor certificate in the amount of $17.5 million for the expenditures listed within this legislation, and to declare an emergency. Any questions or comments about these chemicals? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Harding, Klein, Mills, Page, Paley, Tyson, President Ginther.
Finally is 50-2015 to authorize the city auditor to appropriate any and all revenue received for EcoSmart Choice participation within the Utilities Agency Fund, Fund 341, for the Department of Public Utilities, Division of Power, and to declare an emergency. Would the Department of Utilities like to comment on this legislation?
President Ginther, Chairman Klein. The city is participating in the Green Energy Program that you all authorized with Ordinance 1967-2014 with AMP Ohio. Division of Power customers, including our other city departments, will be given the option to have a certain percentage of energy they receive to be from green sources. The EcoSmart Choice percentage will appear as a separate line item on the customer's bill, with the revenues deposited into the Utility Agency Fund. This is a completely voluntary program, and like I said, they'll see it on their bills.
Thank you, Deputy Director O'Grady. Any questions or comments? I move passage.
Harding, Klein, Mills, Page, Paley, Tyson, President Ginther.
And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Klein. Our next committee is the Development Committee. President Pro Tem Mills chairs the committee. Madam Chair, the floor is yours.
Thank you, President Ginther. Tonight in development, I have ordinance 0163-2015, As I begin to read this ordinance, I'm going to ask Executive Director Al Berthold and new Executive Director Isabella Gould to please approach the podium. Ordinance 0163-2015 to amend the capital improvement budget to authorize the city auditor to transfer cash between projects within the Northland and other acquisitions fund, to authorize the director of the Department of Development to enter into a contract with the Neighborhood Design Center for the administration of the Livingston Park Public Art Project, the Streetcar District Art Series, to authorize the expenditure of $41,750 from Fund 735 Northland and other acquisitions fund, and to declare an emergency. Current Executive Director, please allow me a moment to introduce you and welcome. But our outgoing Al Berthold, I cannot miss the opportunity to thank you for your dedication and your service to the Columbus community. And I know that you'll be missed. We are looking forward to our new director, but thank you for so much in terms of reputation and image and the hard work that is put forth through the Neighborhood Design Center. The community engagement cannot be met, and we really appreciate your service. And I would like to turn the podium over to the two of you to share more about our streetcar series.
Thank you very much. You're very kind. Isabella Gould is our new executive director. And let me just spend a little time going through what this is all about. Some years ago, we were working with the neighborhoods that abut Livingston Avenue. This was part of a grant from the United Way to make that area, Livingston Avenue, and those neighborhoods a better place to live. One of the things we heard was that they would like to see an entrance feature into the Livingston Avenue neighborhoods that commemorates the streetcar district. Those of you who may not know about the history of the streetcar, one of the first suburban neighborhoods, it's hard to believe that Livingston Avenue was at that time suburban, but one of the first neighborhoods served was Livingston Avenue. And in fact, the Rickenbacker family, including Eddie, rode the streetcars downtown. So this was a wonderful thing for a neighborhood to kind of look back at its history and say, we would like to commemorate that. And we were asked to come up with an entrance feature that signifies the streetcar district. I actually thought it was mission impossible, but we were able to get some money from the Columbus Foundation, from the Chase 200 grant, and from GCAC to create a sculpture that celebrated the streetcar. We found a site. It was on railroad land, Norfolk and Southern, and they were willing to lease us this piece of property. It's at the corner of Livingston and Nelson. If you haven't been by there, it's a big red streetcar. Very cool. Actually, Norfolk and Southern also gave us some money for this. So now we come to what are we going to do next? And this is what we're proposing to do next. We've already raised about $12,000, again from the Columbus Foundation, a new grantor, Thomas E. Daly Foundation, and GCAC. We found that probably the most perfect place to put this would be in Livingston Park, which would be adjacent to the big mural that's a streetcar at the park. So we are asking for additional funds to kind of raise the bar and come up with a really glorious piece of artwork. The way this will work is we will solicit proposals of interested artists, and this would be for their credentials. We would select 3 using a subcommittee consisting of artists and neighborhood residents to select 3 people which we will ask to give us some of their ideas relative to what their proposal might look like. They will be paid for these ideas. This committee then will select the top contender, and then they will be commissioned to do a piece of artwork for Livingston Park. So what's important? What is important is that art gets out into the community rather than in the museum, so that everybody, and I'm really proud of of the Nelson and Livingston piece, because there's a lot of traffic that goes past there, and before it was a kind of an ill-kempt small piece of property. Now it has a wonderful streetcar on it. We even have a family who maintains that for us. So this is the second piece, and not only does it bring art to the community, but it celebrates the community relative to the history. There's an awful lot of history on Livingston Avenue, and a lot of history that I don't think people know about. So hopefully they'll get the word with these two pieces. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I wanted to add just a couple pieces. The total budget for this project is $52,000, and it is because of the partnership not only with the Neighborhood Design Center, but also with the Livingston Park Area Commission, who put in a lot of work in making sure fidelity is held to this project. In addition to that, Nationwide Children's Hospital and many of the neighbors working and have raised $10,000, $750 outside of the dollars that the city will provide to support this project, again, bringing the total to $52,000. The project will be open to artists throughout Ohio, so we want to try and locate artists that will respond to the request for qualifications in a manner that will keep the theme with the streetcar, as well as be local as best we can in terms of the qualifications, and looking forward to all of the help. And the Columbus Art Commission have been presented this project, I believe back in September, if I have that month correct. And all of that has been shared, and looking forward to the design selections and looking forward to hearing more information. If there are no other comments or questions, Councilmember Tyson.
Thank you, Chairwoman Mills. And I have ridden past the a number of times the corner of Livingston and Nelson Road, and that is really a beautiful piece of public art at that corner. So I like the design, and it just fits the theme of streetcar, obviously streetcar, but it's a beautiful piece of red art. I think it's red over there. Yes, so congratulations on that, and really do look forward to seeing this additional piece of art in our community. I see Lori Boudros over there, so I want to thank you for all the work that I know you've done with the Art Commission. Thank you, Councilmember Mills.
Councilmember Klein.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to take a moment to thank Al. When I look at the work that you and the Design Center have done in neighborhoods across the city of Columbus, it seems like every piece of revitalization, the impetus has your fingerprints on it. So that's something that you should be proud of, and I'm proud of the Design Center's work, and certainly the service that you've given to the city of Columbus to transform neighborhoods, to make them truly the beautiful places that they are, where all of our citizens live and come together and congregate. But I see your face in all of the structures that are being built in our neighborhoods, and that all kind of goes back to the Design Center. So kudos to you, my friend.
Thank you, Councilmember Klein. I have to say that not every city has a neighborhood design center, and Columbus is rather unique with that. And the fact that our services are free, paid for by the city of Columbus, is what we believe is that art and the talent of our students and the talent of our staff is available to everyone, no matter where they live or what socioeconomic level they live in. And I think it's this council that has supported us greatly for that. And I thank you for that.
Thank you very much. And growing the art audience can only do the city great, in making sure that the appreciation is broader than it's been. And it certainly is because of your work and your ability to engage the community and the understanding and great appreciation for art. So thank you for that. If there are no other comments or questions, I'd like to move for passage.
Harding, Klein, Mills, Page, Paley, Tyson, President Ginther.
That's all I have this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our final committee this evening is the Recreation and Parks Committee. Councilmember Page chairs that committee. Madam Chair, the floor is yours.
Thank you, President Ginther. This evening in Recreation and Parks Committee, we have Ordinance 3060-2014, to authorize and direct the Director of Recreation and Parks to enter into contract with Palmetto Construction for the restroom renovations project at the King Arts Complex, to authorize the expenditure of $141,677 with a contingency of $14,000 for a total of $155,677 from the Recreation and Parks Voted Bond Fund, and to declare an emergency. If there are no questions or comments, I move for passage.
Harlan, Klein, Mills, Page, Bailey, Tyson, President Ginther.
Thank you. Ordinance 249-2015, to authorize the Director of the Recreation and Parks Department to apply for a grant from the Ohio Department of Natural Resources Clean Ohio Trails Fund in the amount of $385,000 for construction of the Camp Chase Rail Trail, Sullivan Avenue to Georgesville Road project, and to declare an emergency. If there are no questions, I move for passage.
Second.
Harlan, Klein, Mills, Page, Bailey, Tyson, President Ginther.
Thank you, President Ginther. That is all we have this evening in Recreation and Parks.
Thank you, Councilmember Page. If there's nothing else to come before Council this evening, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn. We do have 3 non-agenda speakers we'll take momentarily. Entertain a motion to adjourn. Is there a second? Clerk, call the roll.
Harlan, Klein, Mills, Page, Bailey, Tyson, President Ginther.
Stand adjourned. We'll take non-agenda speakers momentarily. Reconvene for zoning at 6:30. Regular meeting number 4 will now come to order. Can I get a motion to dispense with the reading of the journal? Is there a second? Clerk, call the roll.
Harlan, Klein, Mills, Page, Bailey, Tyson, President Ginther.
Any communications and reports received by the city clerk?
No, they're not.
Any first readings of 30-day legislation?
No, they're not.
Now go to the zoning committee. I chair the committee. All members serve on the committee. First in zoning this evening, we have 011-2015 to rezone 1600 Georgesville Square Drive, 43228, being 1.15 plus or minus acres, located on the north side of Georgesville Square Drive, 670 plus or minus feet east of Holt Road, from LC4 Limited Commercial District to LC4 Limited Commercial District. The applicant is Tim Princehorn, care of Nicholas C. Cavaleris, attorney, Kegler, Brown, Hill, and Ritter, 65 East State Street, Suite 1800, Columbus, Ohio, 43215. The proposed use is commercial development. The City Department's recommendation is approval. Westland Area Commission recommended approval. Development Commission recommended approval. If there aren't any questions or comments regarding this legislation this evening, first I request waive second reading. Clerk, call the roll.
Harlan, Klein, Mills, Page, Bailey, Tyson, President Ginther.
Second reading waived. Now I move for passage. Clerk, call the roll.
Harlan, Klein, Mills, Page, Bailey, Tyson, President Ginther.
Passed. Next is 0124-2015 to rezone 760 Reinhardt Avenue, 43206, being 2.65 plus or minus acres, located at the northeast corner of Reinhardt and Ohio Avenues, from C4 Commercial, AR1 Apartment Residential, and R4 Residential Districts to AR1 Limited Apartment Residential District. The applicant is NRP Group, LLC, care of Dave Perry, David Perry Company, Inc., 145 East Rich Street, 3rd floor, Columbus, Ohio, 43215, and Donald Plank, attorney, Plank Law Firm, 145 East Rich Street, 3rd floor, Columbus, Ohio, 43215. The proposed use is multi-unit residential development. City Department's recommendation is approval. Southside Area Commission recommended approval. Development Commission recommended approval. If there aren't any questions, comments regarding this legislation, first I'd move to request to amend to emergency. Clerk, call the roll.
Harlan, Klein, Mills, Page, Bailey, Tyson, President Ginther.
Amended to emergency, and now I'd move for passage. Clerk, call the roll.
Harlan, Klein, Mills, Page, Bailey, Tyson, President Ginther.
Passed. Next is 0125-2015 to grant a variance from the provisions of sections 3333.02, AR12, ARLD, and AR1, apartment residential district use, 3309.14, height districts, 3312.21, landscaping and screening, 3333.18, building lines, and 3333.255, perimeter yard of the Columbus City Codes for the property located at 760 Reinhardt Avenue, 43206, to permit residential and limited commercial development with reduced development standards in the LAR1 Limited Apartment Residential District for a 58-unit residential development. The applicant is NRP Group LLC, care of David Perry Company, Inc., 145 East Rich Street, 3rd floor, Columbus, Ohio, 43215, and Donald Plank, attorney, Plank Law Firm, 145 East Rich Street, 3rd floor, Columbus, Ohio, 43215. The proposed use is multi-unit residential and limited commercial development. The City Department's recommendation is approval. The Southside Area Commission recommended approval. Are there any questions or comments regarding legislation? First, I'd move to request to amend to emergency. Clerk, call the roll.
Hardin, Klein, Mills, Page, Bailey, Tyson, President Ginther.
Amended to emergency. Now I'd move for passage. Clerk, call the roll.
Hardin, Klein, Mills, Page, Bailey, Tyson, President Ginther.
Passed. Next, we have 0042-2015 to grant a variance from the provisions of sections 3332.039 R4 Residential District, 3312.13 Driveway, 3312.25 Maneuvering, 3312.29 Parking Space, 3312.49 Minimum number of parking spaces required, 3321.05 Vision clearance, 3332.05 Area district lot width requirements, 3332.15 Area district requirements, 3332.18D Basis of computing area, 3332.19 Fronting, 3332.25 Maximum side yards required, 3332.26 Minimum side yard permitted, and 3332.27 rear yard of the Columbus City Codes for the property located at 607 Denison Avenue, 43215, to permit a 4-unit dwelling and a 2-unit dwelling above a detached garage on one lot with reduced development standards in the R4 Residential District. The applicant is Benji Lewis, care of Jackson Reynolds, attorney, 37 West Broad Street, Suite 460, Columbus, Ohio, 43215. The proposed use is to conform an existing 4-unit dwelling and to construct a 2-unit dwelling on the same lot. The City Department's recommendation is approval. Victorian Village Commission's recommendation is approval. I know we have some speakers on this legislation this evening. So on the advice of the City Attorney's Office, we ask that anyone here this evening who wishes to speak either for or against this council variance, including staff, please stand. Raise your right hand and be sworn in. I wish to tell the truth and nothing but the truth. Please answer, I will. I will. Thank you. We'll start off with staff presentation.
Good evening. The site is zoned in the R4 Residential District and developed with a large residential structure that is currently being used as a 4-unit dwelling. The requested council variance will permit the development of an additional 2-unit dwelling carriage house on the same lot. Other variances are included for maneuvering, stacked parking, increased lot coverage, and fronting on a public street, with reductions to vision clearance, lot width, lot area, building lines, side yard, rear yard, and required parking for 6 spaces. A council variance is necessary because the R4 residential district permits a maximum of 4 dwelling units in one building and does not permit 2 residential buildings on one lot. Staff finds that the proposal is not incompatible with the area as there are other carriage houses and multi-unit residential uses within this community. The request is consistent with the recent development pattern in historic urban neighborhoods, and the building design will conform to the Victorian Village Commission requirements. Therefore, our recommendation is for approval.
Next, I'd like to ask for a presentation or statement from the applicant or representative of the applicant.
Good evening, Council President Ginther, council members. My name is Jack Reynolds. I'm the attorney for the owner and the applicant, 605 Dennison LLC. And what you're looking at this evening is a request to construct a 2-unit carriage house on the rear of 605 Dennison Avenue. The property is currently has on it a 4-unit apartment building on the front. The rear of the property is currently a gravel parking area that is rutted and not well maintained at this point in time. So what we'd like to be able to do is to replace it with a 3-story carriage house. First floor would be parking with 4 parking spaces. The plan actually allows for the tenants or purchasers of the unit to drive into the parking garage from Hunter Avenue. They would park on the first floor. Then they would exit out the front of the carriage house or to the east. They would then exit the site back down towards Goodale. It is a traffic pattern so that there would be no ingress into the site through Goodale. This would be a gated area that is only accessible by going through the facility, and so you would control access to the site only from Hunter Avenue. Again, it's 3 stories in height, with the first floor being parking. Second floor is the bedrooms, bathrooms. Third floor is the kitchen area, living space, and a terrace. The building will actually face towards downtown, and so we're looking for those city views from the terrace. The building will be constructed primarily of brick with some hardy plank accents and some aluminum accents to again, help this corner, which needs help in terms of bringing it back into compliance to what it once was. The units will sell for approximately $400,000 apiece, for an investment of approximately $800,000 in this corner lot, more or less. As staff indicated, carriage homes are common in this community, both in Victorian Village and in Italian Village. As a matter of fact, the slides show that there are 2 duplexes directly to the north of this site with the same configuration. Although those 2 units have no parking associated with them, we will have 4 parking spaces. And in doing some additional research, again, the picture up there shows the 2 units. Doing some research with the help of the city's Historical Resources Department, I was able to learn that up until 1980, there was a 2-story brick building located on the rear of the subject lot, and it was raised in 1980. So what I'm asking you this evening is to simply replace what was there until 1980 with a newer 2-family unit that will have 4 parking spaces that will serve the site. Again, we are requesting a parking variance. There would be 9 required on site by code, and we, under this request, would be providing 4 parking spaces, so for a 5-space reduction. So that's it in a nutshell. If there's any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer any questions. I'll sit down.
Any questions for the applicant at this point? Councilmember Klein?
I just want to make sure I understand what you're saying. There's 4 units in a gravel lot on this parcel.
That is correct.
And you're proposing that on the gravel lot, they build the structure that will have 2 units.
That is correct.
Does the 4-unit that's currently there utilize the parking of this gravel lot?
One of the tenant currently has a permit parking because his car bottoms out by going in and out of that parking lot. So he has currently a permit for parking area V. So the parking lot is available for 3 tenants.
So the reduction being sought is based on the 4 plus 2?
Correct.
Okay, no, that's just want to make sure. Just want to make sure I understood the facts here. Thanks.
Any other questions for the applicant at this point? I know he'll be back for a rebuttal, but Councilmember Mills, you have a question?
Yes. I have a question for the applicant, but it may be a staff question, so I'll hold my other question. You mentioned the traffic patterning already being in existence. Can you, I think I may have misunderstood you when you made reference to the traffic pattern.
Again, there's a curb cut here on Hunter that would allow access to this parking lot. And there's also a curb cut that serves the site off of Goodale. With the construction of the 2-unit carriage house, we will bring the traffic in off of Hunter and then exit it out off of Goodale. So that instead of coming in and out free-willy, there will be a set pattern for getting traffic on and off of this site.
Councilmember Tyson.
Thank you. Are there any 3-story buildings over there already?
If you look at the picture, you've got approximately 2-story buildings directly to our north, and then the church, which is directly to our west, is well above 3 stories.
Okay, so you have 2.5 stories.
Two-story, yeah. They're set up a little bit taller because you walk up to the front door to the 2 units to the north of us. They have a raised entryway to the front door.
Thank you.
Gives you some height.
Thank you. Thank you.
So they're not 2 stories, they're a little above 2 stories because you walk up to the front door and then they have 2 stories there.
Thank you. We have 2 speakers who have signed up to speak against this evening. Our first speaker, Rick, is it Hotstetter? Sir, if you'd come forward, share your name, address, any organizations you represent. You have 3 minutes to speak against the ordinance.
Thank you, President Ginther and Council. I appreciate the opportunity to speak. I live at 629 Denison Avenue, which is 6 houses north of the proposed property. I speak against this resolution for 3 main reasons, primarily safety, parking, and the variances, which I believe speak to in opposition of the variance requests, speak in opposition to this resolution. Safety first. They're waiving all of the requirements for side yards and for building frontage. This is going to be a fairly large building on a fairly small lot. It creates, one of the variances says they want to reduce the vision triangle. Well, what that talks about is it turns Hunter Alley into a blind one. It's a 2-way alley, and we can see down the alley right now. Well, we won't be able to after this. Also, the question that was posed, and I think it's a valid one, about other 3-story buildings in the neighborhood, not down there. The church is a large stone edifice. Yes, it's 3 stories tall. It's a big building. But the residential structures are all 2.5 stories, 2 stories and a roof. So this will be a big, flat-topped, 3-story building, and it will stand out. And finally, the zoning variances remind me of the old joke about, excuse me, Mrs. Lincoln, but besides that, how'd you like the show? I'm sorry, but the zoning variances basically speak against this, because if you look at it, they're asking to waive all of the requirements that I think protect the village. that make it a safe place, that make it a nice-looking place. And this whole thing seems like they're trying to crowd a building into a very small place. And I'm sorry, I missed parking. They're going to hold 4 cars. We've seen 4 cars in that undeveloped lot. Those cars would be replaced. They're going to bring in 4 more. And so I've got a deficit there. And if you've been down to Denison Avenue any evening, just pick an evening after 7 p.m., it's packed. There isn't any extra space for parking. And we're adding at least 4 more cars, if not more, because according to the regulations I've seen, you expect up to 6 cars in a duplex. We could have an awful lot more cars down there, and I'm sorry, there's no space for them. Thank you.
Hey, Ms. Hauser, any questions, Councilmember Paley?
I'm just curious, if you own property that's 6 houses down, how many parking spots do you have for yours and how many units are in yours?
We have 1 unit. It's a house. We have a garage. We have 4 spaces in the garage.
Any other questions for Mr. Hochstetter?
Actually, if I have a little, I want to mention one more thing. I saw a frown over here. They're going to direct the traffic from Hunter onto Goodale. That's not going to work part of the day because of the traffic. I mean, Goodale's packed. It's a freeway exit. You're going to be causing, yes, there's a driveway, but cars usually use that for egress, not, I'm sorry, ingress rather than egress. It's a fool's errand trying to get out there at rush hour. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker who signed up against this evening is Stephen Schaefer. Mr. Schaefer? You make your way to the podium and share your name, address, any organizations you represent. You have 3 minutes to speak against it.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. My name is Stephen Schaefer. I don't live in this area. I live over in Grandview, but my wife grew up in this area. She owns 3 of the residential units on Neal Avenue, directly opposite Denison Avenue here. Her mother and sister still live there in 2 different units. So she's been there since the early 60s, and one of the major problems has always been parking. Parking now is, as Mr. Hofstetter indicated, just incredibly difficult. The current zoning for this property is a 4-family, which means 6 parking spaces, and there are 2 parking spaces on Hunter now. All of that goes. All they're doing is providing 4 spaces for the new unit. So where do the other 8 people go? They go to where there is no parking now. My wife rents 2 of the units, 2 or 3 of the units on Neal Avenue. Her tenants can never find a place to park. They wind up through the generosity of the guy that owns the gas station at the corner of Poplar and Neal, parking in his lot overnight. There is no parking there. And what's going to happen there, to say that one's car's parking in this decrepit gravel lot, generally speaking, if you drive down there, more than 1 car's there. All those cars are just going to be dumped onto Neal Avenue, Denison Avenue, or Poplar. There is no parking on Goodale unless you go up to the park and it's all metered parking, or you cross Neal Avenue and get down by Thurber Towers and parking's there. So what they're talking about is getting rid of the 6 spaces that they're allotted for the 4-family, 605, 607, Denison. Those go away, and the 2 spaces on Hunter for their ingress into this building. So they're talking about getting rid of 8 parking spaces in an area that's overwhelmed with parking right now. Now, with respect to the building itself, this bringing the building out to the lot lines is not consistent with anything either my wife or I have ever seen in the Victorian Village area. If you go down to Poplar, where they have done this same kind of construction with the carriage house and the 2 stories above it, they all have setbacks of 8 to 10 feet for lawns and stuff like that. This is going to come right out to the corner. It's going to block off Hunter, as Mr. Hofstetter said. It's going to block that off. I'm sorry. Anyway, with respect to the building that's immediately north of this, it's vacant. It's been abandoned for I don't know how many years. It should have been torn down by the city a long time ago. It's a vacant building and should just simply be leveled, turned into a parking lot maybe.
Thank you, Mr. Schaefer. Any questions for Mr. Schaefer? Councilmember Klein.
Just, are you representing the mother-in-law and daughter, or, I'm sorry,
yes,
sister,
yeah,
right?
Well,
because obviously you mentioned you live in Grandview, but you rent to residents that are obviously members of
My wife owns the 3 units.
Right.
Her mother lives in one of them, her sister lives in another, and she's here. And I also received permission from the other owners. I have here a petition that was signed by all of the owner-occupants of the block, Dennison Avenue and Neal Avenue. There are other owners, but they're
sure
they're corporations, stuff like that. Every owner-occupied unit in that block, but one, has signed this petition indicating that they are unhappy with this proposal.
I got it.
And if I may, I'd like to submit this as an exhibit to my presentation.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Schaefer? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming down this evening and sharing your thoughts.
Thank you.
I don't believe we have a representative from the Area Commission here tonight. Is that correct? I ask the applicant if he'd like to come forward for a rebuttal.
Start with, thank you again, Council President Ginther, council members. Let's start with the building itself. The building is only 32 feet in height, so it is not unreasonably tall in the area given the peaked roofs and the types of homes that were built in that age. So it is not higher than the 35-foot height limitation in that zoning classification. So again, I would maintain that it is not out of character with what is currently stock in that area. There was a unit here, so we are simply filling a gap that was created in 1980. So once again, what we're proposing is not out of character with what was historically found in this area. We're simply replacing kind of a broken tooth, a gap tooth at this location. We feel that the variances that are requested offer safety to the community. It provides reasonable access in and out of the site. You know that the safety is being taken care of, or at least looked at, because the staff has reviewed these variances that are before you this evening. Dan Blecksmith is here. I sat down with him and talked about the site triangle question. He is not concerned. I'll let Dan speak for himself. He's not concerned about visibility in terms of the traffic getting in and out of that location. And again, when it goes back to parking, we are required to provide 9 parking spaces. We're providing 4. That area is currently in the permit area V, which serves the entire corridor, at least the western boundary and the northern boundary of Goodale Park. So there are a large number of areas that are restricted to V parking permits only. As well, you do have on the east side of Dennison, there is parking available, but it is not permit parking. It is parking there unrestricted, and that is from Poplar all the way down to Goodale. And also there is parking along Goodale Boulevard itself on the south side of the park. It is metered parking, but it is free from 10 at night until 8 in the morning. So again, with staff's involvement, with the Victorian Village involvement, you've got recommendations for approval there, and we feel it's appropriate in the community. And I'll answer any questions.
Mr. Reynolds, talk to me a little bit about the experience with the Victorian Village Commission and the discussion when you all went before them.
Again, there have been a number. As a matter of fact, I have done 3 carriage homes personally up on Buttles that surround Goodale Park. And in all of those instances, they understand that there is a historical context in which these requests are made, that a lot of these properties had the larger home up front with the carriage home to the rear. And so they understood that we were, again, recreating what was once there, and we're providing the 4 parking spaces. They're well aware of the area, and you got a 4-0 vote from Victorian Village to support the project. And they saw all of the variances, they saw the layout. As a matter of fact, they've already approved the elevation. So we have our certificate of appropriateness from them to start construction once the variance is approved. So there was not any concern about the type of unit and its location in the community.
Thank you, Mr. Reynolds. Any other questions or comments? President Pro Tem Mills.
Thank you, President Ginther. Could you please address the line of sight issues that are raised by the your fellow neighbors? And also, can you speak to the parking concerns a little more elaborately, because they seem to be witnessed by many, but you don't seem to feel that that's an issue?
Well, I think it's the triangle sight line is driven by the setback of the building at the corner. And so when I sat down with Dan, our building actually will sit a little better than 11 feet back from the curb. And so what the code requires is that you start looking at the property line and where it is measured from. And so the sight triangle would run right along here. Given that this is an alley and this is a street, you needed a 10-foot sight triangle from the property line here. But given that anybody who would be driving out of southbound on Hunter would come all the way out to the stop sign well in advance of the proposed building, you would have no difficulty in seeing up Goodale to see if there was a car coming in a westerly direction off of Goodale or off of the 670 ramp. So that wasn't a concern. It's more or less a technical application of the code to the site. And again, there will be a walkway. There's a sidewalk that will serve the Hunter Avenue here that will allow for pedestrian visibility for anybody who's turning into this site, so that there won't be any conflict between pedestrian or vehicular access to Hunter. And he's back there if you want to ask him.
Can you continue, elaborate more on the concerns raised as it relates to parking?
The 4-unit that is on the front of the property has 4 units with 1 bedroom per unit. We currently have 4 tenants in the building. One of the tenant is already parking out on Denison because of the deteriorated whatever it is, the layout of the parking lot today. It's rutted and it's gravel. So what we're saying is that there would be a need for 3 additional parking spaces, either on Denison or Goodale, or wherever the folks want to find a parking space. But again, in doing our research, there is parking available. I've been there on a number of different occasions over the last 3 weeks, and anecdotally I can say that as I drove the streets, There were spaces available both on the east and west side of Denison Avenue, both morning, afternoon, and early evening when I thought people would be parking there. So I mean, we have tenants that obviously will need to have parking spaces. And so, you know, we would not be throwing them out without feeling confident that there would be, in fact, parking available for them either on the east side of Denison or through the permit parking permit V area.
Any other questions
for city staff?
Councilmember Harden?
Can I ask for city staff now? I just kind of, please forgive my newness still to this, but kind of walk me through how you guys come up with your recommendation for passage. And I'm kind of, and specifically with the parking variance, I feel like 5 spaces to give up in this area is a lot. But, you know.
I'll take part one of that question, and I'll defer to Dan Blexmet in Public Service on the parking variance. The application is vetted through a staff review process where we present the requested variances and accept comment from staff, and we give those comments to the applicant. One of the agencies that we typically don't have comments from at this early time is the Historic Resources Commission, because that is a separate public hearing process that the applicant goes through. In the instance of a site that's in a historic district where there's an absence of an area plan, we look at surrounding land uses, whether this proposal has been done before in the area, and then we defer to the Historic Resources Commission on whether or not they support the list of variances that is necessary for the project. So in this case, there is no area plan. We do see the carriage house development pattern along Hunter Avenue in this area, and the applicant did work with Public Service on the traffic-related, parking-related issues, so I will let Dan Blexmet speak to those. And if you have any other questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you.
Yes, in regards to the parking variance requested, it is a substantial request that they have as far as reducing the parking spaces for this application. As part of our staff review, we had asked the applicant to explore the ability to obtain any areas of off-site parking to mitigate that impact, and perhaps the applicant can speak to that a little more. But it's our understanding that that was a limitation that it was very difficult for them to meet in this application. As far as the 4 units have been accurately described as the 4-unit building, those spaces would be somewhere on the street. Folks would have to park on the street somewhere for that. That being said, this is somewhat of an urban location, and in regards to its proximity to the freeway and basically the boundary there, everything south of there is in the Downtown Commission, which requires no parking spaces. So in the urban location there, they aren't meeting exactly what some other applications have met as far as mitigating their parking demands, but this we don't have enough to be in opposition to the request.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? First, I'd like to move to take from the, I'm sorry. Councilmember Tyson.
Thank you, President Ginther. So we have, the 400,000 units will have, $400,000 units will have parking underneath theirs, correct? And then the people,
Correct.
And then the people in the front just won't have parking.
That is what's being proposed, yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you. And they currently park on the street or behind the lot right now, right?
Yes, currently they can park behind the lot, yes.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions or Councilmember Brady?
Did you do a study on, or any information on the parking availability and how many units are on the street itself?
No, there was not a study performed, but the east side of Denison Avenue is unrestricted. However, the west side of Denison is in the permit parking area. That's only permit parking area V.
No, what I'm trying to say is, because I'm familiar with this area, and I know that there's multiple units in that area, and there's no parking in those multiple units that I am aware of. I mean, I don't see any garages on Denison where those houses are. Do all the units on in that neighborhood, I mean, I'm down there a lot, and I don't know that the other units on that street have parking, and do they have problems with parking? Can the attorney speak to that? Have you looked at that?
I can say that I did do a little bit of measuring. There's approximately 320 linear feet of space available on both sides of Denison, which would allow, now what's interesting is that they're not lined parking spaces, but as I count on the different evenings, you could probably put anywhere from 17 to 18 cars on either side of Denison from Goodale up to Poplar. And then once you go north of Poplar, again, you're looking at approximately 400 linear feet to put parking spaces in there.
That's not exactly what I'm asking. What I'm asking is, there's other houses on those streets. Do they all have the required parking per unit?
No. As a matter of fact, the two properties just to the north of us have similar numbers, but no parking spaces. So the two lots directly north have 4 units up front and 2 units in the back, and they have 0 parking spaces. And then I think if you were to go up the alley and look at some of the properties on Denison, some of them have garages, some of them have closed and boarded up garages. So I can't say that every unit has parking spaces off-site, but I would say that the majority of them don't have on-site parking.
Okay, but on your variance, you're going from, because you already have had parking, so for a 4-family dwelling from 6 to 0, basically.
Well, the code actually, because it's all on one lot, you would take the 6 times 1.5, and that's 9 parking spaces. So we're providing 4, so we're actually short 5 spaces.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? First, I'd move to request to take from the table. It's been moved and second, take from the table. Clerk, call the roll by voice.
Hardin. Klein. Mills. Page.
No.
Paley.
Yes.
Tyson.
No.
President Ginther.
I think we will say yes, and so it won't be taken from the table.
Council President, can I move to reconsider, take it from the table to have a formal vote on this action?
It's been moved to reconsider. Is there a second? Second. Clerk, call the roll by voice.
Hardin. Klein.
Is the one we're voting about.
Pardon? He voted yes. Gotcha. So if we want to reconsider taking it from the table, the majority, those voting not to take it from the table, would have to move to reconsider. So is there someone move to reconsider? It's been moved and seconded. Clerk, call the roll by voice.
Hardin. Klein. Mills. Page.
Yes.
Paley.
Yes.
Tyson?
Yes.
President Ginther?
Yes, so we are reconsidering whether or not to take this legislation from the table. Is there
Second.
motion and second to take from the table? Clerk, call the roll by voice.
Harden? Klein? Mills? Page?
Yes.
Paley?
Yes.
Tyson? President Ginther?
Yes, taken from the table. And if there isn't any further conversation, discussion, I move for passage. Is there a second? Second by voice vote. Clerk, call the roll by voice.
Harden? Klein? Mills?
No.
Page?
No.
Paley?
Yes.
No.
Tyson?
No.
President Ginther?
Yes, and the legislation is defeated. Nothing else to come before council this evening? Entertain a motion to adjourn. Clerk, call the roll.
Harden, Klein, Mills, Page, Paley, Tyson, President Ginther?
Adjourn.